What's the most idiotic thing that people believe? That an online petition will magically cause a rewrite or edition season of GOT. I don't think anybody believes this. I think the petition is a cheeky way of expressing discontent. If anything, it is idiotic to think that a large number of people think that their signatures will get a last season remade, or to influence the book plots if they get written. Even if it was rewritten, it would be idiotic to believe that it would made a better season. The last couple seasons weren't all that compared to the previous ones. The special effects of this last one were pretty intense though. That being in a specific religion will guarantee you a spot in heaven or paradise, or whatever it is you wanna call it. That Trump is a good president. I guess you don't know too much about politics then. Ah yes, anyone who thinks Trump's bad is automatically a liberal idiot that knows nothing about politics. From what I have heard, has the worst. Look into it and form your own opinions. My own opinion is that he's possibly the dumbest man to ever hold the office, and his supporters are somehow even dumber than he is. If you ever find your opinion is that you're somehow smarter and better informed than the entire other side, aka millions of people, it's time to re-evaluate. You aren't that smart. That the Holocaust didn't happen. Mexico paying for the wall was the stupidest thing ever said. Believing it was even stupider. Facts. You bring up all the facts on the good things that Trump has done throughout his presidency that you want, but if you seriously thought you are going to convince a country that you insulted numerous times to pay billions for one of your policies, then something is wrong with you. The plan was for a tax on wire transfers to Mexico. It's a stretch to say they are paying for it, but that's the justification. Tariffs or some other kind of tax, maybe. Mexico is the second largest importer of US goods. Tariffs may not be a good idea. Besides, tariffs on foreign goods are paid for by the US consumer, not the Mexican. Suicide bombers are awarded with 72 virgins in heaven. Hello, we're playing Magic the Gathering. Shakes for Stosamira. We're playing Arabic Wheel of Fortune. It'll take a K. There are 37 Ks, no vowels. This is true, but those virgins are the previous 72 dudes who suicide bombed themselves. A friend of my dad once made a joke along the lines of the suicide bombers are in for a shock when the promised virgins turn out to be men. They do it to verify you and blame them. When they thought that the world was gonna end, when the Mayan calendar ended. I remember it. It was a big disappointment for me, cause almost nobody died. I go through this dread every 16 months. What a high note to have ended on though. My brother is a very smart person in a lot of areas, but he is a total conspiracy theorist with a lot of things. He believed this. He packed up his bag and trekked off into the wilderness for a few days in the Rockies. He's still here but still weird. Love that crazy dude. Vaccines cause autism. Also that having autism is worse than having polio. Being dead, being socially awkward sometimes. Sometimes I feel like this might be true for me at least, but not usually. I have a coworker with autism. He often says that he doesn't have emotions and that he is dead inside. That sounds more like depression, other mental illness than truly autism. But is that worse than being dead outside? Food piracy doesn't cause food poisoning either, but tainted food like tainted vaccines can hurt you. I know a guy who denies dinosaurs ever existed, but is a huge Bigfoot believer. He's completely normal in every other way, and it baffles everyone. Unless he's a biologist or paleontologist, neither belief affects anything in any way. It bothers me that some nurses are anti-vaxxers. That's true. When I was in nursing there were a lot of nurses that didn't get flu shots unless forced to. I don't recall any general anti-vax talk, though. We all got our Hep vaccines, for example, without complaint. I used to work with a Somalian Muslim. He was pretty old, but a nice guy, and usually I'd say quite smart. He believed all dinosaur evidence was planted to try to disprove religion. That not going to vote is a way to express an opinion. It just means for the other to decide for you. That is, you are innocent, you have nothing to fear from law enforcement. That their opinions about topics of any real complexity are 100% correct. Dunning-Kruger effect taken to the maximum. Hands down the anti-vax debacle My friend in middle school would not be swayed when we tried explaining to her Pakistan wasn't in the US. Pakistan isn't the neighboring Indians hate each other. Indians are in America. Ergo, Pakistan is in America. That the earth is less than 10,000 years old. I have a conversation with my aunt almost every night about how she just will not let go of her belief of the earth being 7,000 years old. And arguing does absolutely no good. It drives me batshit. The fact that we can see so many stars is proof against this, that you can literally see with your own eyes. The stars were added 6,999 years and 363 days ago. Now, they were added last Thursday, complete with our collective memories of them having always existed. I'm telling you, no amount of reason will reach her brain. It's like showing someone a red ball and they refuse to believe it is red, and argues that it is in fact green. Or the usual is not dead celebrity stuff like Tupac etc. Some people believe that it's bad luck for a groom to see his bride in her gown before the ceremony on their wedding day. I think that's more of a tradition than an actual belief. The earth is flat. Every other planet is spherical. Every viable star, even shapes vulnerable to gravity, take on a spherical shape, but our planet is a freaking frisbee. It's not a frisbee, it's a pancake. It's a disc being held up by elephants, being carried around by turtle. That cussing makes you seem cool. As soon as you see this question asked, you just know the comments are going to be full of 95 different people all making the same jokes about religion, flat earthers, and anti-vaxxers. Who are, you're so clever. You and the other 94 people all going after the same easy karma. Hitting children isn't abusive, and also just morally ethically wrong. The first time I ever hit my child was when he was playing with my keys and kept insisting that putting them into the electrical outlet would be a good idea. Letting him actually do it and learn the hard way would have been abusive. No, that would have been neglectful. Parenting would have been removing of the keys, be the outlet, or see the child. Hitting your child was abusive. Tom shoes help the Africans. No, they don't. They already have plenty of shoes, they just pick the worst clips they can find. And second of all, they are shoes worth £3.14, so they have barely any effect and wear out in like a day, and third of all, they are putting shoemakers out of business, so it damages Africa's economy more than anything. Exactly. I saw an episode of Adam Ruins Everything Great Show BTW, and I was actually very surprised by this, and the whole idea of using the worst case scenario to push your agenda. I understand that there are people with lives like this, but come on, how are shoes gonna help? A girl in my HS history class did not believe you could swim in the ocean at all. She believed there was too much salt, so you couldn't swim in it. She claimed this with the statement, "Salt is not liquid and there is salt in the ocean, therefore you cannot swim in it." I proceeded to slam my head into the table violently. Whales are in the ocean and are not a liquid. Checkmark. That the earth is flat. It is very obviously a donut. My friend thought I had a fully stocked nuke bunker in my backyard just cause I told him that vaccines cause autism, like you are killing your kids. That money can be backed by CR alone, even after the banks were insolvent and had to be bailed out. Finland is a real place and not a Russian-Japanese scam to hunt whales in secrecy. You look like you put ice cubes in milk. That Trump colluded with Russia, Mueller report was a shining exoneration for him. Flat Earth vaccines cause autism, moon landing fake, 10% of brain creationism. There is a guy in the parenting subreddit who is defending his stance that he needs to tell his 6-year-old son that he is in charge and has to be willing to lose his life defending his mother and sister because they are women and can't defend themselves. Horoscopes, more specifically when people judge someone based solely on their sign. Violent video games cause violent behavior. People who believe that water softeners function by adding salt or iron out to your tap water. That drop kicking someone and default dancing over their unconscious body is a bad idea. SMH. 1. Vaccines cause autism. 2. Flat Earth. 3. Feminism in general. These are the key ingredients that made Karen. That the KJV Bible is the final authority, while the historic evidences state otherwise. Despite the mainstream media continues uses KJV Bible as their source of religion. Mind-boggling for me indeed. You'll look idiots seriously. The King James Version is the result of repeated copying by hand and multiple translations. It is also very out of date with our current language. Modern versions make use of much older manuscripts as a source, are translated by groups of experts, and use words modern speakers actually use. Either you were misinformed, or didn't do an academic empirical research. KJV is product of erroneous translation and its subsequent doctrines, thus giving birth Protestant that majority despite. The majority is despiting the very misinformed sources painting Christianity completely different that do not account for historical evidences within the cultural context during that period. Your law tools for taking KJV as God's words as final authority, or as source of misinformed doctrine. That praying to a dead Jew will give them eternal life. That making retail customer service workers stay late is helpful. No, it is not. Most places have a set amount of hours employees can work based on profit. If they go over those hours, it gets taken out of next week. I might have an extra $1 this week, but I'll lose out on $5 next week. Not using actual math, just a very simplified example. It's worse when you're a part-timer and not guaranteed a set amount of weekly hours like someone who's full-time or a manager. Hanging out with people who have your same problem will somehow help fix that problem. By definition, they don't know how to solve it, or they see no problem with it, or else they wouldn't be there. That vaccines are bad also. That vaccines cause autism. People who think the earth is flat. It isn't. We have astronauts. They checked. Well, the earth being flat. The anti-vax movement. First, there's no proven link between vaccines and autism. In fact, there's an actual study funded by anti-vax-tards done by an actual scientist that ended up showing that there is no correlation between vaccines and autism, and other ones showing the same. Second, they're engendering themselves. Third, their kids. Fourth, the general populace, by lowering the percentage of people vaccinated, was rendering collective immunity more and more ineffective. On the other hand, people dumb enough to believe that autism nonsense really shouldn't be in the gene pool, so natural selection, I guess. Don't vaccinate your kids, and the earth is flat. This kid in my class thinks that the human eye can't tell the difference between 30 and 60 FPS. Shaving makes the hair come back thicker. I had a friend who believed that space didn't exist, and that aliens were made up by the government. They are 16 this year, and I worry for them. The Y2K big that will bring the end of the world and all electronics will stop working. That carrots help improve your eyesight.